In my life, before I met Papaji, I could count on one hand the people I had met who had really profoundly changed me. And that was lucky. I'm sure many people haven't met anyone who's profoundly changed them. My grandmother, my loving mammy, and a maid, a Black woman who worked as a maid in our house when I was a little girl, Susie, and certain books that I read in high school and college, like Shakespeare or Faulkner. And then in college, as I've mentioned often, there was a particular teacher of history who challenged me in a way that those meetings before had just held me or thrilled me or amazed me. But he challenged me in terms of my own racism. He was really there teaching in the South with an agenda to challenge his students to examine their racism. And it was startling. I was shocked out of a deep unconsciousness of feeling superior, feeling better than racism. And then there were definitely events in my life that happened that really changed my outlook. Certainly taking mescaline when I was in my 30s certainly just turned everything around. So I saw that the universe is conscious and there's life here, and that expanded me. And meeting Eli was profound because Eli was a meeting where, for the first time, what he was about was bigger than what I could categorize. And I saw it was huge, and I respected him enormously for that. And I fell in love with him for that, even though he didn't fit my personalities, idealisms. He touched something deeper. And we have had an incredible life together, ups and downs, certainly, but just at this phase of our lives, both of us just profoundly happy and content, and still some minor ups and downs, but lucky that we found each other. So, but Papaji, as I said, I don't know if it's even possible to speak of it, but I know it's also very important to speak of it and an assist for you to hear of it. Because I saw lots of people come through Papaji's. At first, there were only 5 or 6, then maybe 13. And then when Osho died, there were great floods of people. And some of those people were profoundly, deeply, irrevocably moved by the meeting and paid such attention to it. They were struck by the meeting. And I would say that's what happened to me. I was struck by this meeting. When you look at the clip, you can see he's a beautiful man, and he's light and loose, and he's clearly quite intelligent. That is all true. But in a deeper sense, to be struck by someone is to really start to unwind or unravel, or to have it unwound, or to have it unraveled. The concept you have of yourself, made of multiple concepts, but one overriding concept about me, the concept of who I am, which, by that time I was in my late 40s. So it bumped around and it had victories and defeats, but the concept was still intact. And sitting with him, actually allowing myself to hear him dislodge my concept of myself. When he said to be quiet, to stop, just stop thinking, just be still, that was revolutionary to me. I had been in many different spiritual groups, and I'd never actually heard that. If they were saying it, I didn't hear it. But he said it so clearly, and he said it with such presence, and I already felt a heart connection, so that I was listening in a deeper way than I had listened outstanding books I had read or people I had met, I really opened because I knew in some deep way that he was offering me the gift of this lifetime. And that opening had its almost closing, opening even further, had its stages and its rhythms. And I was lucky at the time that I met Papaji. He didn't have a lot of students, so he would answer letters, and we got to ask him questions if we had them, and then get to experience the depth of his answers and the depth of his presence. And then as it changed with many more people coming in, still the presence was there. It was absolutely available. And many times when I would meet with him privately or just he would see me, I would find myself practicing my old identity because that was my default. I would just drop back in that. And each time I did that, either he would signal something that was, whoa, what is that? Or I would experience the addition of that. I just don't want you to think that one time I met him, my heart was open, my intelligence was open. And from then on, I was just open. Because it wasn't like that. There was always more to this opening, always more to this relationship. I can think of so many times. Once we'd been at Hardwar, I met him the first time. We went back to the States. Then we went again. This time he was in Lucknow and more people were gathering around him. It was just a couple of months after that. And he met us at the train station, which was unheard of. It's like, whoa, somebody came in the train car before we disembarked and said, Papaji's here. He came here to meet you. And it was, whoa, what a great opportunity. What a great opportunity. And so when I stepped out and saw him just beaming open, what I did was I gave him this look about, oh my God, I've been working so hard. I've been doing, and he recoiled from me. And he made Eli and me ride in a different car. And I didn't see him privately that whole meeting, 6 weeks probably in Lucknow. And what a shock to me that he did that he responded so truthfully. And a shock to me that this would come up, that's what I would bring to him. Oh, help me. I've been speaking to people and oh, they have so many, whatever my internal story was, it was a sickeningly familiar representation of myself. And he wasn't having it. He wasn't interested in it. He wasn't interested in fixing it or me fixing it. He just didn't want it in the space. So it was one of the most profound teachings I've ever had, but I continue to have them because this misidentity, I'm calling it practiced identity or false identity, has a life that's been cultivated. When I met Papaji, I was 48, so I spent a lot of time with major changes, major revelations. I was not living the life I was conditioned to live. I was not living a life that anybody ever thought I would live, that I had ever thought I would live. I didn't know that life existed. And Papaji was pushing me to go deeper than that, to even stop identifying all of that as my life. And when he strongly suggested to stop thinking, to stop the narrative, there was a deeper way of seeing that. It's not just in the moment of meditation or in this moment, this 5 seconds or 1/12 of a second, I will stop thinking. It's recognizing whenever that false identity arises, which it must because it's been fed for so much of our lives, that's the moment where you stop. And in that, then this profound, unknowable meeting naturally occurs. So I was very lucky that he would even look at me after I had presented him with that, and he was so disgusted with that. But he did, he was asking me to go out and speak to people, and he would ask me a direct personal question if we were at somebody's celebration or not in the satsang hall, but what appeared to be casual. And sometimes I would hear myself say the most inane things, not even knowing they're inane until they come out of my mouth. And then we both know. And it's like occasionally I would just fall at his feet and just say, I give it up. And he would also see that. And so he didn't give up on me. But I'm saying all of this, and there's a lot I can't even say because they're not words, but it's really just to recognize that our relationship, yours and mine, yours and the other people who are drawn to this, drawn to Papaji, drawn to Ramana, drawn to even if it's just been a taste of an experience of what it means to be still, to not be referencing, excuse me, yourself to the identity of yourself that you have practiced for however many years you've been alive. To recognize when you are using the strategies that you have learned to either move toward someone with dramatization or beauty or love, or away from someone with fear or distancing or dissociating, or against someone with power or anger or dominance. And just stop that. So a lot of our time is spent in these meetings in recognizing those strategies because they remain subconscious for most people. And in the recognizing of those strategies, then there is some choice in whether you actually, once again, follow the strategy, or you are willing to stop, or you stop and take responsibility for having followed the strategy. So I don't know why I'm even, well, I do know why, because the clip of Papaji really inspired me to let you know that this relationship is of me and of Papaji and me is not cookie cutter. I could say he's my guru, but that word is so polluted and means so much, and like cults. He was not heading a cult. He was not interested in a cult. I was not interested in that. He wasn't telling me how to think. He wouldn't accept my latest view of how I should think. He left me no ground to stand on. And really, that's what I offer you. If you have ground to stand on, you have to be willing to recognize, what is it made of? At some point in our lives, it was essential that it be constructed. It's natural and essential for human beings to have some form of identity. And uncountable moments have fed that identity and directed it, and then changed the direction and exploded it. But in your willingness to watch this clip of Papaji and to attend these meetings with the deepest seriousness of intent and willingness, what we used to call it, to be busted, willingness to be busted. And once again, the subtle and not so subtle ways of assuming superiority, or assuming that your needs will be met, or assuming a drama that you're involved in. So that's not even to make the dramas wrong. It's not about right and wrong. It's something deeper here. I didn't always agree with what everything Papaji said. I didn't agree with his politics. He had particular politics since had escaped Lahore during the partition of India. I didn't agree with my father's politics. It didn't stop me from loving my father. It did stop me from taking instruction from him about politics. And so I never perceived Papaji giving instruction about politics, but had he, I would have had no qualms, and it would have been easy for me not to follow that teaching. But he wasn't offering anything that would contribute to my identity. And this invitation that I am offering you has nothing to contribute to your made up identity, to the identity of this form, this person. And that's not even to exclude that. It's just to recognize what is the truth of that and what is deeper than that. And what is your true identity? And what is your life in service for? Is it trying to slip in that pseudo identity, that false identity? Or is it willing to lose that? Is it willing to be busted, willing to recognize, oh my God, I wasn't conscious of it at the time, but how absurd that I would meet Papaji with this face of, oh, help me, I've really worked hard. It's like, whoa. When I recognized it, I was shocked that could have been given any legitimacy in my mind. But these shocks are necessary because we remain unconscious of how the mechanism of our pseudo identity drives us in relationship, in the world, in our hopes and our dreams, in our contentment, in our happiness, in our misery. So I'm never offering a formula for what you should do with your relationship. I'm just offering you a way out of the identity with that relationship as real. That the true relationship is unspeakable. No one has ever spoken it. No one has ever named it. We speak around it. And great teachers and great works of art and great of all kinds point us toward that. So without knowing where you are falling, I am inviting you to welcome the pointers that pierce through your self-identity, your me identity. And I'm not suggesting that you then give it a bigger identity, a self-identity. You pierce through that too. That finally is just polluted. It's another way of hiding.